I believe, though, that those who have more should help those with less. I love meeting new people. I took the bus to this event today. I drove to this event today. I had to stop for gas while driving to this event today. I admit it, I yelled at someone for driving like an idiot on the way to this event today.
Not today, probably on the way home.
I admit it, I was driving like an idiot. I volunteer every week or nearly every week. That's fabulous, thank you. I am a woman. All right. Happy International Women's Day one day late. I speak more than one language. I speak more than 2 languages. A few of you. I speak a language only I can understand. I understand the mission of Second Harvest Food Bank. I have the opportunity to communicate with volunteers at other food pantries. Not counting today. I am under the age of 30. I believe 50 is the new 30. I believe 50 is the new 30, and I act like it. Okay. I am a veteran. Thank you. I think the UCF Knights are awesome. I didn't see enough hands on that. I'm sorry. Can we do that again? I believe the UCF Knights are awesome. Still disappointed. I'm not gonna do the alternative of Gators or anything. I said I'm not going to do it. I like cake. I like layer cake. Layer cake with the neatly divided different segments of the cake, maybe different flavors, right? Okay. I like pineapple upside down cake.
Oh, yeah, my favorite.
I like marble cake. I like multi-flavored wedding cake. Okay, it's terrible. It's a bad thing, a dangerous thing to talk about cake right before lunch, I think. But okay, so I'm going to end on that for now with the theme of cake and multi-flavored wedding cake, because that is the theme that we have for us today. Collaboration. Coming together, working together in ways that we are not used to working together. When we talk about collaboration, we're not talking about a layer cake where we have a clean division across all of our different organizations, right? Different layers that are separated neatly and we never talk to each other. They're not blended together in any way, right? We're not talking about pineapple upside down cake, which is very heavy on top. That's a government or a Second Harvest Food Bank telling you what you need to do without you acting as a full partner in helping those who are most in need. It is a very top-down kind of approach to taking care of the people in our community. We're maybe talking about marble cake, where we are taking all of our organizations and all of our interests and all of our values and blending them together in some creative ways. But I think we're definitely talking about multi-flavored wedding cake, because we are saying we want to take all of our faith organizations, all of our secular organizations, all of our nonprofits, all of our private businesses, our universities, and we want to bring them together in ways with all of their different flavors, with all of their different interests, with all of their different values, bring them together with a common purpose of helping those most in need in our community. How do we do it? How do we create this multi-flavored wedding cake? How do we create this marriage? And when we think about collaboration, the metaphor of marriage is pretty common, actually. We want to marry two or more organizations. We want them to start loving each other in some new way that they haven't done before. But when we think about this metaphor of marriage, we have to ask some pretty important questions, like how do we make the marriage work? Is it possible to have a civilized divorce when organizations eventually will stop working together? Don't get married for the money, which is a bigger problem than you might think when we look at collaboration. There's a grant opportunity, there's a funding opportunity, there's an opportunity to access new resources, but only if you start to work together, only if you form a partnership. But what happens when you get married for money and not for love? It falls apart. No money, no love? No money, no love? Maybe no love, no money. Collaborations between organizations do not work if there is not a mutual understanding and a mutual respect across those organizations and across the people in those organizations. Now, with our little exercise here, raising your hand, I saw a lot of commonality on some silly things like who's driving and who drives like an idiot, but also some non-serious things, or I should say serious things. Do you have the opportunity to work with volunteers at other food pantries? That's actually a really big question. As I'll show you in just a moment, what some of my students discovered in some research late last year was that the majority of food pantries in the Second Harvest Network, at least those that were studied, rely almost entirely on volunteers, no full-time staff. And so when I asked the question, do you have the opportunity to work with volunteers at other pantries? If you say no to that question, that means you don't have the relationships in place to form collaboration. If you say, yeah, I have that opportunity, then there's a possibility. If you say, yeah, I have that opportunity, but I never do except for once a year when I come to a conference like this, that's a problem because we're not communicating, we're not taking advantage of the resources that are available to us. So how do we make the marriage work? So let me share a little bit about collaboration and volunteers in Second Harvest, within the Second Harvest Network. This is based on some research that my PhD students did as part of a course project last semester at the end of last year. Some of you, how many, by show of hands, how many of you remember answering some questions? Good. Excellent. So this is what you helped us to learn. That more than 70% of the food distribution network rely on volunteers more than any other kind of staff. Now think about that for a moment. Volunteers, as we know, I think many of you said you volunteer every week, once a week, every week, or more often, right? And I applaud you for that. But volunteers also tend to come and go. They're not consistent, they're not stable. So when we have our food pantries that are 70% of them driven by volunteer support, we have a situation where Relationships may build on an interpersonal level, but if they are not built between your pantries, rather than just between people, the relationship that you have and your ability to help those who are most in need in your communities will diminish as soon as one volunteer leaves. From 1 month to the next, from 1 year to the next, unless you have a relationship between the organizations, that ability to collaborate potentially diminishes. So we have 70% of pantries led by volunteers, with more than 60% of agencies showing fewer than 40 volunteers, some showing more, 40 to 80, 80 to 100.